Story time with Eric Alex. Let's all stay aware here for a minute, and I will give you a little insight into the gum business that I had as a seventh grader and built that business up. How that all became something was in seventh grade. We were at gym class, and I was watching all these kids, and one of my friends had some gum, just some Bubblicious or something like that. And a couple of the kids were like, "Hey, I'd buy a piece from you." And I kind of perked up and listened to that. And that is what kind of triggered it all. And I noticed that there was kids wanting this, right? There was people actually, as I looked around the room, I noticed that there was a demand for it. So kind of a light bulb moment went off in my head, and then that's how I got the idea. I did know my mother would always bring home, she was a buyer for this company, and she'd always bring home like extra gum and sometimes candy and so forth. So we always had gum laying around, like the Wrigley's 5-pack, Spearmint and Big Red and Juicy Fruit and so forth. So I tested the water with that, and basically just went to class and offered to sell the packs of gum for a quarter, right? And I think that's what they were going for at the time. And since I got it free, it was all profit. And that's how I learned that I could sell it. And I got a kind of a customer base from that as well. It was quite a little entrepreneurship. Now you might be wondering, why would I give a shit about doing this when, you're a kid, seventh grade, whatever. Well, my main issue was I grew up poor. So I didn't have money for things. I mean, if you wanted a gift or something, you got it maybe it's your birthday or Christmas, you got one gift, you get to choose something. And it wasn't the super expensive gift. If you got a video game or something that you enjoyed like that, then it was awesome. But usually you got clothes or shoes or something of that nature. So today's world is a little different, right? I'm sure we all know it's kids aren't the same as they were back in the day. And so I decided when I was younger that I never want to be without having money in my pocket. I got free lunches in school, and I got a situation where you get subsidized for food and things. It makes you feel kind of like a loser, right? I mean, you don't feel good about it. All your friends have money; they all live in nice houses, and all parents have nice cars and making a lot of money and so forth. So I'd go visit them and on the weekends and so forth. And it was one of these things where you're not jealous, but you're kind of like, wow, this is how it could be. I didn't even know what an allowance was at the time, right? This was something foreign to me as well. I asked my mom about it, and I have friends that were getting sometimes $50 a week. And this was late 80s, early 90s. And I'm like, $50 a week? What the heck? Just for doing their homework, for going to school and doing well, they'd get paid. They didn't have to do any chores at the house. And when I brought this up to my mother, she was single mom, right? My dad had moved out, and he was living his life trying to make it happen for himself as well. He was still around, but he wasn't, living with us. And my mom said, you have a roof over your head. Your job is school obviously is your job, but that's a given. But you also have chores to do around the house. Clean up the dog poop, clean up, cut the grass, clean the pool. And we did have a pool because before we were poor, my parents were together and there was some decent money. But then when I hit about 10 years old, my dad left and everything started going harder and harder for us, right? We didn't have everything we wanted and so forth. So it's was very eye-opening. And those were the days of being a latchkey kid and so forth. So I had to go through all that and take care of my sister was 4 years younger than me. I'd make sure she was okay. And my mom went to work now and all that. So it was a little bit more of a situation to understand why I wanted to sell gum or sell anything, do something to make money. My dad had told me, hey, take the lawnmower, go around the neighborhood and try to cut grass. That's great, but only had so much gas in the mower, and then I had to get more gas, and I was a kid and I couldn't buy gas. So, so I'd have to get a grown up to buy gas and whatever. So it was a very big chore to cut some grass for $5 a pop, if I was lucky, and move on from there. So I noticed, how do I make money easier? Well, like work smarter, not harder, which I didn't even know that term yet. And I realized, even though I didn't know selling or sales was a thing, I didn't realize at the time, if I could find something that people wanted and I could give it to them, I would make a premium price on it out of convenience, right? Like a convenience store or something of that nature. So that's where my idea was. And when the gum, it kind of clicked in me, and that's how I started doing that. I actually ramped this business up pretty quick because my mom didn't bring that much gum home. So I started going to the stores with my profit and buying the 10 packs and so forth. And then I started buying other candies like Lifesavers and Jolly Ranchers and so forth, and then selling those things for like the Jolly Ranchers, a nickel a piece or whatever. So to test the waters, to see what else I could sell at the time, right? Something that I could keep on me that wouldn't melt, and I could sell with in lieu of gum if somebody else wanted something different, right? It actually worked out pretty well. So end of seventh grade, I started doing this, just the gum. In eighth grade, I ramped it up to a little bit more. And then when I hit ninth grade, this is when it took off. We went to a different school now. It was a bigger school. There was more kids. Plus, you had 3 different lunch periods. And this is where I made all my money. So my lunch class was always PE. So I would always go. I had a friend who had the first lunch and I had the last lunch. So we didn't have it together. So what I had to figure out a way to get him my lunch. I got a free lunch, if you recall. So what I did is I made a deal with him. I think the lunches were $1.25 if you bought them, and I got mine free. So I would go to the cafeteria, meet with him, and say, "Hey, what would you like for this lunch?" And he'd tell me what he wanted. I'd go through the line, get everything he wanted, bring it back. He'd give me $1, and I'd give him the lunch. And then I had $1 with me to go to the snack bar to get some French fries or something else, a little something treat, right? Something different. Some Andy Cap hot fries from the old vending machine or something of that nature. So that's how it worked for a bit. And then directly after that, I would run to like a few different classes I knew that had people in there that wanted to buy gum and candy. And the teachers all knew about it. The teachers were good with it. Nobody complained. I wonder, even to this day, if the teachers were just happy that I wasn't doing something worse. But I never had an issue with it. Matter of fact, I was respectful and I didn't bother the classroom and so forth, and just did it quickly and was gone. And then I would go to gym class, and in gym class, my teacher knew, he already knew. He was a cool coach, and he was like, no problem. So it was, where there's a will, there's a way, right? So, if that goes along with, be aware of surroundings, be aware of other people's feelings, be aware of not causing issues where there could be. And don't get me wrong, we're all human. We all put our foot in our mouths. We all do things that aren't really right at the moment sometimes, and we get caught up in that once in a while. And I just say that the more you are aware of things and the more you put yourself in other people's shoes, the easier it is to do things you want to do. Almost like you're implanting seeds in their minds by doing these positive things for them. So they have no problem kind of giving you back that positivity. So it's like the old saying, if I'll wash your back, you wash mine, or so forth. So that's why it worked out pretty well. Then 10th grade came around, and now I've already gotten in a situation where I'm only working I'm only going to school half the day. So I have to do all this stuff in the mornings because at the afternoons, about noon, I'd go to this job I got over the summer as a busboy at this restaurant hotel. So I was working 40 hours a week there while going to school, and I was making pretty good money. And what I didn't know happens is you get tipped out too. So I would do room service and things of that nature, or even when I bust tables or I'd clean the tables off, the waitresses would tip me out. So I actually made more money on tips than my paycheck. And at that time, the deal with my mother was if I went to work, I had to give my paychecks to her. And that was part of the game. So I had to figure out a way, how could I make some extra money? So I could buy, I don't know, once a month I want to buy a magazine or, a treat or something like that for myself. And I did have a car that we bought for $250 from a guy we knew. His wife sold it to us. He had passed away, and we got his car. My uncle was a mechanic, so he and I fixed it up. And it was an old, like 84 Buick Skylark. It was like an old man, Uncle Buck, John Candy. You know that movie, Uncle Buck? It was like that kind of a car. It had some smoke coming out the exhaust. It did all this stuff. But the interesting thing was, I didn't care. I wanted a vehicle. I didn't care what it is. It got me from point A to B and it made me independent, right? I was on the road. So selling the gum and candy and stuff was now kind of an extra. And I was still trying to make it happen because it was, at this point, it was bringing me in approximately $20 a day in profits, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot when you're talking about selling quarter packs of gum. And that's quite a bit of money a day you're bringing in. And that's back when a tank of gas cost 12 to 14 bucks to fill up. So to give you a perspective of what 20 bucks got you back then, it was pretty decent. So now got this situation going on with work and half day school and stuff. So I would end up still going to my classes. I still had the same teachers I knew that would let me do these things. And I still had some students that, were interested in buying from me. So I'd do my rounds. I went to this one class, and this one class was a biology class. In biology class, we had a bunch of these AP students, right? These students that were like doing college level credits and so forth. And we had one kid in there that was a real cocky little shit, right? And not sure exactly why, but he decided that day to get a pack of gum and then in front of the whole class that I'm not paying you. Now I looked at him. I said, stop messing around. Just give me my money and I'm done, right? I'm out of here. He says, no, I'm not paying you. And I looked around and I see other students, quite a bit of them were looking and seeing what was going to happen. I made a split-second decision and I grabbed his head and I slammed it into the lab table and he jumped up. I didn't break his nose. I didn't do anything real damage. I just kind of jostled him, right? It wasn't a bad beat down or anything. It was just something that was like, yeah, I want you to know I'm serious. I'm pissed. Don't do this to me for a quarter or whatever. And he paid me. And the teacher kicked me out of the class, right? Because she saw what happened and she's like, go to the principal's office. Sure, I'll go to the principal's office. I walked out the room and hit the road and went down to gym class or another classroom or something and go to principal's. I mean, whatever. But the next day or 2 days later, when I went back into class, that kid was selling candy and gum in the classroom to people. And if they didn't want to pay, he'd give it to them. So basically that whole class, I lost all my customer base. And so I saw the writing on the wall already now. It's like, oh, I think I made a mistake. But if I didn't do what I did, what would be happening either way? Then people would think they'd have to pay me either way. So I was kind of at one of those impasses, and I made a decision that probably ended up ruining my business model. What I did do to pivot on that is I actually had a friend that wanted to sell the gum and candy as well, but he didn't know how to start. So I said, "Hey, I'll sell you my route here, my people, and just give me a portion of the proceeds." So I'm making $20 a day, maybe a few bucks less now because of the situation at one classroom. But hey, maybe you'll have better luck and so forth. So if you just give me, $5 a day out of all the money, then you keep the rest. After, this is the profit, $5 profit. So just for me, for my contacts and my movement. Now, you have to understand, I didn't really care anymore. I was at that point where, and I'm sure some of you can understand that, if not all of you, you get to the point of it's not worth it anymore for me. I'm doing well over here. I don't need this anymore. It was good while it lasted, but I'm going to move on to things, right? Bigger and better things. The issue was the friend of mine I sold the business to decides it's not that important to him. So within a month, the business was dead. He didn't follow up. He didn't go get more gum. He had to buy all this stuff and do these things that he didn't want to do all the waste of time. He didn't think it was worth his time. Which of course I was like, well, why did you want to do this anyway? I mean, either way it would have shut down, but I thought I was helping him out, right? So anyway, the business kind of dissolved and it was over. But I did learn some important aspects of business from that small entrepreneurship at from the ages of 13 to 15 or so, 16. But what I learned is you have to be careful, right? Be careful of how you treat people. Be careful of who your audience is, right? So it's always awareness it comes down to. Just be aware of everything. Kind of keep everybody happy if you can. It's a tough thing to do, right? Sales is very hard. Sales, it can be an easy thing, but it can also be a double-edged sword, right? Because you have to always be selling. You've got to always be moving. You're like a shark. You've got to always be watching for opportunities. And it can be exhausting. Going to a regular job, which nowadays is almost like ridiculous because there's no money in it, right? Everybody's hurting for money. There's no regular job you can actually pay rent and everything. Now it's like, I don't care where you live. If you're making $3,000 a month, man, most of that, if not all of it's going to rent. So you need to have roommates and stuff. I mean, when I was younger, I had roommates. There was no shame in that. I never lived alone. And we all had money in our pockets. I think a lot of people nowadays need to start doing that as well. But what happened with the gum situation was something that possibly could have been avoided, right? But I can pinpoint it back down to, and that happened with that kid in that biology classroom. It was the pivotal moment for that business to go downhill. So I think that is exactly when we were looking at, well, maybe it was a subconscious excuse I made myself, and I decided to do that because I just didn't care anymore. But if I was to do it over, I don't know if I would do it differently. You know, you're between a rock and a hard place. If you show yourself weakness, people are going to sit there and take advantage of that. If you show yourself that you're too rough and gruff, obviously this happened. It showed that it was going to become an issue for people. So the best part of it all was I learned things from it, and that's what we can all do. That's the whole point of this is awareness is learning and keeping things in the loop. Yeah, if you send me some ideas in chat and or questions you want to hear, and I'll answer everything for you. I said, but I think I think we all need to slow it down, especially nowadays. I mean, this was before the time of iPhones and social media and all that good stuff. This was the 90s, right? The early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. I mean, we didn't even have internet yet. It was still old school. Now, don't get me wrong. During during this time, I actually had a cell phone. Not a lot of people did. These were like businessmen and so forth. But I had a cell phone. My grandmother, she co-signed for me from AT&T or whatever it was, and got me a bag phone to put in my car so I could use for emergencies. And at that time, nights and weekends was free. So you don't want to use that phone in the daytime unless it was a straight emergency, like you were broke down on the road or something. Because that thing was like, I think, $2 a minute or something crazy. So it adds up real quick, especially if you're broke. So that $50 a month phone could get me unlimited nights and weekends. And at night, you better believe it. When I got off work and stuff, I'd be calling my friends, hey, I'm about to get out of work here. You want to pick you up and so forth. So it was kind of pretty cool. But so there was cell phones, but it was not like we have today by any means. Not everybody had it. So it was a different world. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you want to hear. And I've got more stories coming. Stay aware.